Everybody, it's Kristen Eykel. I'm here at SAND 2017 and I'm with this beautiful teacher, Ajaya Sommers. I had to capture her because she's so delicious, and this conversation is really important, not just for women but also for the men on this planet who are also awakening and emerging, right?
I believe so.
Earlier at lunch I asked her, so what would you share so much, with so much passion, with so much desire, that you'd be willing to sleep in your car to say it? So that was the setup.
I love it. For me, you could say like my awakenings have been very precise and related to a somatic experience. Like they haven't so much been through a conceptual lens, and particularly through studying embryology. So when you just asked me that question, it's like my deepest passion is being this permission-giving presence that's really igniting the remembrance of the miracle of life.
I like what you said about the embryology, and what I just sort of was tapping into as you're saying this. Like I could see like your inner embryo like being born in that space. Mm-hmm. It's really quite beautiful because we do get to rebirth ourselves over and over and over again. Each moment. So in terms of rebirthing ourselves in this moment, what would you say when you look out into the landscape of what's possible versus what's necessary? What do you think would be a really beautiful practice that we can engender for the average person to enjoy?
So my background's in biodynamic craniosacral, so I've been studying the embryo for like the last 20 years and developed the way that we develop and the way consciousness develops in terms of a somatic process. And I'm also a continuum teacher, and basically what's happened is that recently I went to Hawaii for this last 10 months and I just dove into my own practice space, and this whole piece came through, which now I call the core attunement practice. And it's essentially a way to you could take 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you have, but it's a way to essentially return to those origin forces, that original potency that ignited your spirit into matter at conception. And so it's a movement practice, it's a breath practice where we free up our own central channel through breath and sound and movement and awareness. And I feel that, it's like these days we're bombarded with so much that wants to reference our attention out. There's so much related to technology and just the speed that we're in. And so essentially it's a way to reference inside, and there's a lot of talk about body felt sense and being connected to what you actually feel, but for some people that's not easy. It's definitely not what most of us learned. And so I guess I could say that my passion is in hand-holding people a bit and showing them precisely how to bring their awareness and their touch and their love. It's like first you have to create an inner climate that actually is an inviting climate.
And that's challenging.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear around going into that space, touching that deeply personal, humanly intimate space of self. There's so much fear around that because I think people are afraid of, what am I going to find if I get there? What if all those demons come tumbling out of the closet that I worked so hard to keep within? How would you address that?
I think there's a piece where I love this new definition for trauma, which is essentially there's isolation. There's a component of isolation. So for a lot of us, we're locked in through fear, and we're managing our fear by basically repressing our breath and locking out sensation. So there's a lot of numbness and disconnection, and that further feeds the referencing out, yeah. Right? So all that. So I find that a lot of it has to do with providing a presence of warmth, of love, of safety, of trust, literally with touch, with some kind of relational field. I don't think we can really get through that level of our disconnect by ourselves. So I think one is sort of busting the illusion. Like I see a lot of people thinking that they can just like figure it out.
Or read a book,
or think about it, or
take a class.
Yeah. But most of those traumas took place in a relational field context, and so they need a relational field context to actually start to thaw.
Unwind it. Yeah, I love that. I think that's really powerful. And there is such a healing space that happens between us. That's that third energy of the relationship, which is not you or me or us, but it's that field within that has its own consciousness, that has its own desires to be expressed through us in my conversation.
Yes, beautiful.
So I love what you also said about breath and touch, and that's what I was here teaching, was about pranayama and the breath. And so when we do connect with that breath, it is our primal connection to the first breath of life. And the last thing we do before we expire is exhale. So it's that first inhale and that last exhale. And then what do we do with all those breaths in between?
I was just saying in the class the other day, it's our most intimate relationship that we have. And so if you, I'm sure in your practice, in your work, if you can start to shift, again, that relationship and that inner climate where people start to orient to the pleasure of their own breath and the power that it has in terms of centering one's fulcrum of awareness in the actual location where we are designed to be seated.
Yeah. And that does feel good.
It feels really good.
It feels amazing. And that's the thing. Like, I'm always telling the world, if it's not yummy or juicy or delicious, we're not going to do it. Yeah. So breath wants to be breathed. Our body wants to feel that. So that giant inhabitation of the breath, it feels good. Our brain wakes up. We start to salivate. We start to get kind of like that juicy lubrication, right? Total arrows. And it can be very personal. Like, you can breathe all by yourself right now and feel kind of awesome. Mm-hmm. And then you can breathe with your beloved or even with a stranger, which is, of course, what we do here at Sand, is we begin to sort of breathe together, heart connection. Mm-hmm. And then there's that other sense where you have this like total love affair with an absolute stranger. And that's what I want to have happen in the world. So you at home, like, you get to have a love affair with an absolute stranger. So just feel free to connect that heart space to your world. But so in terms of that, where would you like to see your practice evolving to that would give you that greatest sense of pleasure within?
That's a great question.
Thank you. It's a great conversation.
I love just being invited to feel that. Feels good just feeling that.
See how she put her hand to her chest?
Yeah.
Like, that is is that heart space. We talk about the heart chakra, the feeling, but it's connected to her breath and her heart. Like, do you see her eyes change, her face changes? Like, she changes when she, I'm sorry, I'm like breaking you down here, but it's true. Like, you're this like beautiful embodiment of like actually having a moment of presence with self.
Yes.
That's what it looks like, guys.
Yes. Everything. It's like, it's that simple. Just maintaining the continuity of connection with the divine within us.
That's the challenge. Maintaining the connection. We all like have the big moment, the big connection. We're like, aha, and then you have to go like to the grocery store and like deal with a temper tantrum and a 4-year-old. You then have to take that purity of connection and then apply it. Or else it's just something great you did on Thursday and it's not something you'd apply to your life. And that's really the schism. And a lot of people here talk about that. Like, yeah, I've been a meditator for 25 years, but I still have, problems with my wife, or I still have to go to a job with a boss I hate. So the idea of our practice is not to separate from those things or to hide within them, but to, imbue this into the relationship with the boss that you're having challenges with, or your partnership that's growing or evolving, right?
It's funny you're saying this. I just created a course called A Course in Thriving, and essentially it's all about practicing very practically, first, how to stabilize this connection and how to have a daily practice so that it's accessible. And then we put the rubber to the road and we apply it to these 5 essential fields of life, which are, your intimate others, your family, your close ones, your purpose work in the world, how you're showing up there, your gift. Really, is it really your gift and your purpose, or are you
just doing it for cash? And that's fine to do it for cash, but know that you can do it for cash and create your purpose at the same time, and eventually, if you're really like on your game, they'll become the same thing, which is the bonus. That's the heaven point.
I think at a certain point it becomes essential. In terms of I think how we all have this innate desire to fulfill what we really came
our destiny.
Yeah, what our deepest gifts are. So
why are we taking up breath if we're not exhaling something else?
Exactly. As far as I can tell, that's what we're here for. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to evolve. And the whole point is that consciousness itself is evolving through us, through this human experience. And so I feel that's where we're all equal. That's where we all are in this common ground, and where our stewardship is, I believe, is that it's so unique for each person, what you need to tend to, in your most unique life, what actually needs tending and attuning and honoring and living. And so there's no hierarchy in that. There's no someone's more valuable than another, any of that business that our culture demonstrates.
Thank you for being present.
We are all teachers. We are all beloveds.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being present. Thank you for continuing this conversation with all of us. And we look forward to your comments. So make sure to do so below. Many blessings.
Sweet.